It become a demand crunch when stores or countries close down. We closed down 3,264 stores. In its peak, we had closed down up to 4,000 stores. That's 80% of all our stores over a certain period. In mid-April, 80,000 of our employees could not work. Our sales were down with below 60% compared to previous year.
This is an unprecedented situation. What has changed is the need of fashion in times of crisis has significantly been reduced, and we don't have the same amount of people looking at fast fashion or fashion anymore. People are having really issues with their own salaries, being on short term, receiving less for their household income.
As manufacturers, we understand that it was a problem beyond the control of anybody, the brands, the retailers, the manufacturers. But in the end, the most of the buck was passed on to the workers, the weakest end of the chain.
I spend my time during the spring to work on what is known as call to action, which is a network and an agreement between the industry all and the industry IOE, International Employers Association, with a number of brands. What we have done in this call to action is basically to try to mobilize funds in order to facilitate for countries to be able to set up temporary social protection systems, and then going forward having that as a permanent mechanism in the countries where we're operating. And also has the dimension been to see how can we support manufacturers on their financial cash crunch.
It's always a matter of collaborative partnership. There have been cancelled orders, liabilities, and so on. We try to be as careful as possible with our suppliers, looking at collaborative cooperations where we count also on in future not to cancel finished orders, to take over fabrics which have been lying there. What also did on top of the existing living wage consideration, we also worked with banks, something what helps the brand and the manufacturers. We give them a refinancing chance where they get the money in 30 days for a really reasonable and also a competitive interest, which also on its own couldn't do.
What has happened during this pandemic, as I've seen, is that the value system of the manufacturers and the retailers and brand has been put to test. What was missing was an open and transparent communication to take everybody along, to see collaborative views of the manufacturers, how to handle the situation, of what's coming up. I would expect that the retailers and the brands would consider the manufacturers, whether they are small, big, or medium, as extension of their whole chain, as part of their team, as an extension of their team. We work together to serve the guests, the customers of the retailers. Most of the retailers are not asking for discounts, but some are asking for discounts. So what I would expect is that for the orders which are already have been produced, the stock which is lying, it is ethical that no discounts are asked for those, because it's going to really kill the manufacturers. This is the time when we need to help each other. And I think we can build a future together.
It's not going to be as it has been, and we need to change. We need to change as a company, as a purchasing or retailer, but that will also need that we also change and have that dialogue that requires a closer dialogue between the purchasing organizations and the manufacturers. In that dialogue, how is this changing, and how can we create new business model, new ideas?
We will see an allocation issue. The number of suppliers will shrink. The retailers, the brands need to work on collaborative cooperations. supplier just jumping from one to the next, this hopping is not leading for a long-term benefit.
I think the industry needs to reflect if they want to be truly work on sustainability. And from our company perspective, I believe this is going to be an increased demand from the consumer, and they want to have both. They want to have good prices and a sustainable product at the same time. And they want to see that as a transparent part of how they're buying their products. I think we're moving further and further in that direction.